People say amen. People say amen. People say amen. Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name, still, call the seas to still. The rage needs me still. Every way, at your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Good.
Hi Lighthouse Kids, this is Miss Amanda, and we're going to continue our study today on the Ten Commandments. We have some friends who are going to help me to introduce the Ten Commandments today a little differently than what we usually do. So let's let them share with us.
Firstly, we keep God first. Real God road, we don't worship fake gods. And namely, we don't misuse God's name. Sabbath stream, we worship God on a special day. Parent Parkway, respect our parents. Campaign Lane, we don't hurt others. Giving Boulevard, we don't steal. Truth Turnpike, we don't lie.
Thank you so much, Lighthouse Kids, for helping to introduce those 10 Commandments and those street signs. You know, we use street signs because street signs help us in life to know which direction to take and which way to go. And the 10 Commandments are kind of like that. God uses them to help us to know the decisions we need to make to live a godly life. So the 10 Commandment that I'm going to be introducing today is Attitude Avenue, which goes with we're not jealous. And that's our big idea today, we're not jealous. And we get that from Exodus 20:17, which is our 10th commandment that we'll be covering. Exodus 20:17, you must not covet your neighbor's house. You must not covet your neighbor's wife, male or female servant, ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. So in this verse we hear the word covet, and covet is very similar to the word jealous. Jealous just meaning that instead of being grateful for the things that you have, you're thinking about the things that others have. So when we try to work on how we're going to not be jealous, instead we can also think of how we can have an attitude change, an attitude of gratitude. And so we're going to look at a story today about some brothers that did not have an attitude of gratitude, but instead they let jealousy take over their hearts. And that's going to take us to Genesis 37. So if you go there with me to Genesis 37, we're going to be reading the story of Joseph. And before I get started with that, we're going to kind of break up the story. And every time we see that Joseph's brothers are jealous of him, we're going to take a little break and introduce our junior scientist. He's going to help us with our object lesson today. And we're going to have in that object lesson, this is some warm milk. And then we'll also be putting into that warm milk some lemon juice. And every time Joseph's brothers have a sour heart, a sour attitude, just meaning that they're jealous and that their heart is getting jealous toward their brother, we are going to squeeze some lemon juice into the milk. So we'll go ahead and get started with reading the story, and then we'll invite our junior scientist every time we see that Joseph's brothers are getting jealous. So we're going to read Genesis 37 and start with verse 1. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he had often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his half-brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children, because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day, Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. So now let's go to our junior scientist who's going to help us start to sour this milk, just like Joseph's brothers are getting soured by jealousy. All right, hello, junior scientist Clay. What do you have there as part of your supplies?
Lemon.
And what's in the measuring cup?
Milk.
All right, can you taste the milk to make sure everybody knows it's milk? Want to dip your finger in and just take a little taste? All right, what's it taste like?
Milk.
Milk, yeah? Is it cold or is it warm?
Warm.
Yeah, it's a little warm, isn't it? Okay, now we just heard Joseph's brothers get jealous, and so their hearts are starting to get sour. Can you take one of those lemons and squeeze it into the milk? Pick up one of those lemons and squeeze it into the milk. Squeeze it. There you go. Okay, now set it back on the plate. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go ahead and continue reading on with the story. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. Listen to this dream, he said. We were out in the field tying up a bundle of grain. Suddenly, my bundles stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine. His brothers responded, so you think you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. So here we see that Joseph's brothers' hearts are getting more and more jealous toward him by the way they're speaking their words toward him in a very hateful way. It even says here that his brothers started to hate him even more. So let's go ahead and make that milk even more sour. All right, Clay, Joseph's brothers, their hearts are getting even more sour. Can you squeeze another one? Squeeze it hard. Good job. All right, let's continue reading on at verse 9. Soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I have had another dream, he said. The sun and the moon and 11 stars bowed low before me. This time he told the dream to his father as well as his brothers. But his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that? He asked. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you? But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dream meant. So here we see that while the father's being contemplative and thinking about Joseph's dream, the brothers are growing deeper and deeper in their jealousy toward their brother. And so let's go ahead and put a little bit more of that sour lemon juice into the milk, and let's see what's continuing to happen. All right, Clay, we see again Joseph's brothers' hearts, they're getting more sour. Can you squeeze one more lemon? All right, can you taste the milk for us? What's it taste like?
Milk.
What's it taste like?
Sour.
It tastes sour, doesn't it? Thank you, Junior Scientist Clay. And as you can see, whenever you first tried that milk, it tasted good. It tasted like regular milk, just warm. And then as we added that lemon juice, it tasted more and more sour. And when we tried it at the end, it was not something that he'd want to drink. It tasted very sour. And that's the same for our hearts. God doesn't want our hearts to be sour with jealousy. He wants us to have attitudes that are filled with gratitude and thankful for the things that we have. So as we look at further in the story of Joseph and his brothers, we see that their jealousy led them to make even more sinful decisions, such as they plotted on how they could kill their brother, on how they could hurt him. And then they also ended up selling him into slavery. Then they had to go back and lie to their father about how their brother was no longer with them. And so you can see how that sin of jealousy and making that wrong choice to not be thankful for what you already have and being jealous of what others have, how that can lead you to do even more sins in your life. So let's try to learn from Joseph's brothers, and let's try to have an attitude of gratitude in our lives instead of having hearts that can be sour and filled with jealousy toward others. Let's try to be happy for the things that other people have instead of thinking of how we want to have what they have. If you were to look at this milk right now, you would see how it has clumps of little things in it. And that has to do with how the acidity of the lemon juice reacts with the milk. And that's not the kind of heart that we want to have. Let's try to keep our hearts pure. Unlike this milk, we can go ahead and we can make our hearts not jealous by praying to God, asking Him. This milk can't go back. It can't go back to what it was, but our hearts can. So you can pray to God, say, God, please help me to not have a jealous heart. And let's strive this week and in our lives to have an attitude of gratitude. Well, thank you for joining me today, and have a great rest of your week.